What is going on, everyone? Anthony Drew Gary here, host of the How To Show, where we talk about optimizing life, money, and happiness one how-to at a time. We are in the throes of football season, and this week I want to spend some time talking specifically about sports in general, because you basically cannot watch a sporting event in the United States anymore without seeing a commercial at every commercial break talking about sports gambling. And it's taken a lot of states by storm. In the recent history, a number of states have adopted basically permission to do this in each individual state by gambling on your phone, essentially. And it presents some opportunities that maybe were unintended consequences of how quickly it sprung out, how many different sports books there are. There are some arbitrage opportunities. And on the How To Show, we optimize life, money, and happiness. But what if we can optimize your sportsbook experience as well? I have an expert to bring in on this topic, a good friend of mine. His name is Chris Wilkie. He runs a Facebook group about sports betting arbitrage. And I want to share that with you because I think you'll get some value from it. I think it's fun. I think it's worthwhile to have a discussion about. So without further ado, let's bring on Chris. Chris, welcome to the How To Show.
Thank you, Anthony. I hope you're having a great day today. I'm glad you had me on.
It's been as good as it can be. I appreciate you being here. And I want to spend some time talking with you about sports betting arbitrage. And full disclosure, Chris and I have known one another for a long time, but the opportunity to talk about this presented itself because Chris runs a Facebook group that talks about this on the daily, really. And so I want to give a little bit of an opportunity for Chris to talk about what he does there in the Facebook group. But to really start out with some low-hanging fruit here, we are talking about the online sports book opportunities that exist in a multitude of states. Now, Indiana is one of those states. And so it seems to me that there's some opportunity that in a relatively risk-free way, some money can be found basically by cashing in on the customer acquisition costs of these sports books, right? Am I on the right track there, Chris?
Yeah. So being a marketing guy in my full-time job, you notice sometimes it does take a little bit of marketing dollars to get a customer to join in. And I'll start off with full disclosure. I'm not a gambler. I mean, I do not like losing money in any capacity. I'm not one who's going to sit here and tell you, hey, take the Bears to win, because we all know that's not going to happen. But at the same time, the things that I try to look for are things you can make money on pretty risk-free. So this is just kind of a little hobby. You're not going to become a millionaire off of it. But if you're looking for a little bit of fun and want to take advantage of some promos and some changes in odds across sports books, you may be able to make a little bit of money this way.
Yeah, I suspected we weren't going to be able to make it through this video without you shooting me some Bears steam. I'm a Bears fan. Chris is a Packers fan. It's been a lot of fun over the last decade or so, mostly for him. So talk to me a little bit more. Yeah, I think I can see something in the background there. He looks to be a shareholder of the Packers crew, and so talk to me a little bit more, Chris, about the different sports books. It sounds to me like at different points of the year they have opportunities for you to make introductory offers or something like that. And how does that work? Is this just primarily driven toward first timers, right?
Yeah, so probably 90% of the promotions you're going to find on any sports book is going to be trying to get that first-time customer to come on. And when you think of sports books in Indiana, your big ones are going to be DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet, which you'll see Drew Brees talking about that sometimes on TV. You'll have Barstool Sports along with BetMGM and Caesars. Those are your big ones. Your other ones, you do have a little bit of WinBet, and Bet Rivers has a few promotions, but your big boys are going to be those first six really talked about. And when you think about how you're going to use these to make money, a lot of the places do what are called risk-free or risk-free bets or match deposits when they first start an account. So basically what that means is each individual, which is your driver's license and social security number, along with a separate bank or funding account. So it can't be like me and me over in another address. It's one individual that has the tax reporting purposes, can sign up for an account, and they basically incentivize you to make a first bet. Mm-hmm. So if you're going the bet or the risk-free route, basically what happens is you bet, If you win, you win the money. You get your original bet back plus the money you win. If you lose, they give you a free bet in the amount of the initial bet that you bet. So as you can see here, if it's a risk-free bet up to $1,000, you can win that bet or you can get $1,000 credit back. Which that sounds fine, but if you know anything about sports books, that free bet is kind of useless unless you know how to convert it out. So basically what that means is I cannot cash out a free bet on Caesars. You actually have to bet that and win. And when you bet and win, what you're getting is you're not getting that initial money. You're just getting the winnings off of that. Mm-hmm. So basically it's this free token they're giving you there. So the way you can actually bet these and make some money off of them is something called low hold bets. So in essence, what this is you take your initial sports book. So you're going to have two for this. And there's a software out there, and this is what I use in my Facebook group that kind of shares some information about the amount of money you should bet on each thing. So what will happen is you use this software and you find that DraftKings has a bet at plus 200. FanDuel has it at minus 200. And you bet those two against each other. And you try to find what's called a low hold, which low hold means there's 0% house cut. Because the odds are different. It's all the arbitrage-ness of that. Because DraftKings has a little different odds than FanDuel, you'll find that they can get the right amounts here and you can bet properly on that. So what you do is you bet those. You hope the one that you had the risk-free side on wins and you don't have to worry about any free bet conversion. But what you do is you will bet those and you either make your money or you don't. If you get the free bet, what you do after that is you're going to actually take and you'll use something called a free bet converter on that same software, and it'll show you a bet to get the most back out of that free bet. On average, you get probably 70 to 80% back on a free bet. So what you're trying to do there is you're trying to win the side that doesn't have the risk-free side to it, lose the risk-free bet, you've converted your cash over, and now you have this free bet that you can cash out using a low hold or free bet converter formula, and then you'll get that as your revenue.
Yeah, so we just went PhD level there. This is a disclaimer here to join the group because this is basically the introduction to the thought process behind having opportunities to use these sports books to your advantage. And this isn't necessarily the way that they want these done. They want these to be, profitable. However, it sounds to me like using different sports books at different times for different things can net you a positive outcome. And, Chris, off the top of his head, rattled off almost 10 different sportsbook opportunities in Indiana. Each state's going to be a little different. But what it sounded like to me was you need to read the fine print of the different promos at different times to make sure you know what you're doing. And you can't just go in blind and expect a good outcome because that's sort of the way the customer acquisition process is set up. And so, Chris, if we take this one step further, you mentioned a little bit here about two different sports books running the same game or match or odds, but they have different spreads on them or different odds in an arbitrage sort of way, sounding like you can bet over here and take the same game and bet over here. And depending on what the outcome is, can we talk through that a little bit more? And I want to share some visuals that you shared to your Facebook group for the purposes of having this discussion.
Yeah, go for it. So this is Econ 101, arbitrage. You find where you can make money without having to take risks. And full disclosure, I taught Econ for a little bit. So if it sounds a little over your head, just take a deep breath, no graphs, no supply chain, anything like that. So what we're going to actually look at here are two different bets. And what these are arbitrage opportunities. These would be from a few weeks ago. But essentially here, as we look at the one on the left, you're going to see that we have a UFC fight. And in this opportunity, Caesars has one person to win at plus 110. And you have DraftKings that thinks the other person will win at an odds of minus 105. So what ends up happening here, if you can do anything with odds, what ends up occurring is you can actually bet both sides with the right amount and you can win because in a boxing match, somebody has to win. There's not going to be a tie. So what you do here is on the Caesars bet in this scenario, you would bet $100. On the DraftKings, you would bet 107.56. So what's going to end up happening is you've bet 207.56 here, and you're going to get paid out regardless of the outcome 210. So what's going to end up happening is you actually make $2.44 off of a bet of $207. It's not a lot. Like I said, you're not going to go rich on these, but it's guaranteed. You can't lose that bet. The only issue you can have when you're betting these is if the odds change while you're betting. So you got to be very quick on these opportunities, and you got to really know the sports books. And I'm going to recommend never putting any more than $50 to $100 doing this, because you don't want to get stuck. If you make a mistake, you want to be able to get out of that very quick with minimal losses. The one on the right here is going to be what is called a middle bet. So this is an interesting type of arbitrage opportunity here. So in this scenario, it's the Rockies and the Giants. And on PointsBet is going to be an over 10.5 of the game. DraftKings is going to be an under 11.5. So if you can do the math, there is a magical number in the middle there. That's why it's called a middle bet of 11 runs. So if this occurs and there's 11 runs in this game, you are going to win actually both bets. If you lose, you can see by the math that's ran here, you're actually still going to make some money, because there's actually an arbitrage opportunity plus the chance to have both of those bets hit. So on the tool that I use, they literally have a section that's called middle bets, and you can go down through there and look to see exactly all of those different options. This is really great during like football season, because a lot of times you can assume most teams are winning by 3 or 7 points. You just go down and look to see if there's any 3 or 7 point middle bets, and if there are, you bet them. Worst case, you don't lose anything. Best case, you win something. And you can actually go along, and it's a nice way to have a little skin in the game without actually having any potential for loss or a risk there.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, and I think more people can probably identify with the baseball solution than maybe the boxing one, because the opportunity exists in a small world that 11 runs get scored in this game. You know, you get a 6-5 or a 7-4, whatever it is. Realistically, it could happen, and so it's just fascinating to look at the opportunities to exploit mathematics to the detriment of the sports books. And I think it's really fun. And so I wanted to have you on to talk about these things. And just as an overall sense, the key here is that you have to spread these across different sports books. Because if you've got, if you've got points bet odds at over 10.5, the under 10.5, you can't bet both sides in points bets, or else you're going to lose, because the house always wins within one sportsbook house. You have to go across multiples to even out that risk. And I just wanted to make sure that was thrown out here as clear as can be, that you're not going to be able to pull this off within the same sportsbook.
No, and that's the big key here, is you got to have some sort of calculator that's going to do these equations for you, so you know what to bet. And you're going to have multiple accounts, because again, that household on most bets is about 10%. And what we're doing is using mathematics to find the areas where a lack of communication or your lack of information from a macro econ class is what's causing these differentiations. Some of these odds are set they buy odds from a book out in Europe. Some are a proprietary system. Sometimes there's more bets that are being made on one app that pushes odds in one direction. Sometimes one app may know something that another doesn't about an upcoming game. Those are the differences, that information barrier there. Because in a perfect world, everything would be the same, but not everybody has access to all that information.
Yeah, I think that's the key out of life. All you need to be successful in life is a slight unfair advantage. I've heard that in an econ class or two. And so I just really wanted to spend some time talking about this, Chris, because it fascinates me. And if it fascinates me, there's a good chance it fascinates somebody in my audience. And you referenced a couple of different times in this episode a service that helps you get this done. And we won't necessarily throw them the full benefit of the doubt. But what I can say is that Chris nibbles off little pieces here and there and shares it in his Facebook group. So we'll link to that in the show notes down below, so that you can figure out if checking that out in a fuller, more in-depth version makes sense for you. And so I appreciate you joining me this evening, Chris, to talk about arbitrage in the sports betting world. And if anybody's looking to get in touch with you in this world, is the Facebook group the best place to get this done?
Facebook group's the best place to get it done. You can also bug the crap out of Anthony with comments, and he can shoot me a text and say, hey, look here, and answer questions. So well, those two ways are great.
Absolutely. And so, Chris, I appreciate you being on this evening.
Not a problem at all. Thanks for having me. And I hope you have a great rest of the evening.
You got it. Special thanks to Chris for coming on and talking me through that. Hopefully you got some benefit from it, and if you're interested in checking out more that he's doing there, check out his Facebook group. It's a good place to do that. Chris was also wearing a t-shirt for the Savages Ale House, which is the premier location to get a bite to eat in Muncie, Indiana, in my opinion, and in Chris's opinion, and that is where we went to school together. Check out Savages if you're in the area. And as always, you can get in touch with me in the comments down below, or you can reach out to me at indiedwell.com if you are looking to sell your house in the Indianapolis market. I can help you do that. If you've got any ideas for future topics on the show, we're talking about sports gambling here, so nothing is off the table. Let me know how I can help you optimize life, money, and happiness one how-to at a time. Till next week, take care.